The fact that 50 Cent has formally gone nuclear has completely upended the rap industry. Shay played Shannon Sharpe in the most recent episode of Club Shay. Jim Jones boldly blasted NAS for disdaining a legend in front of millions of people. However, the criticism wasn't limited to supporters. It came from 50 himself, and there is never any tact or decency when 50 Cent drags someone, and there is always blood on the ground. 50 didn't simply clap back. According to insiders, he attacked Jim Jones' pride head-on, dismantling him line by line in a manner that only 50 can. We're discussing harsh remarks on Jim's reputation, allegiance, and even his role in hip-hop history. Furthermore, to exacerbate the situation, the internet is already teeming with screenshots, memes, and purported receipts that demonstrate 50 had been hoarding information about Jim for years, waiting for the right opportunity. This is where it becomes even more bizarre, though Shannon Sharpe was caught in the crossfire himself. Yes, exactly. Fans are accusing the Hall of Fame NFL veteran, who is now a podcast king, of being involved in the scandal, accusing him of escalating the conflict by allowing Jim Disness to go unpunished. Additionally, there are currently rumors circulating that 50 Cent is prepared to take anyone who consigns his NAS remarks to the battlefield. In addition to Jim Jones, Twitter is exploding. Fans are yelling that this might be the beginning of one of the most repulsive feuds in years, as TikTok detectives analyze every aspect of Jim's looks. Conflict has always been essential to the hip-hop culture, but when you put artists like Nas, Jim Jones, and 50 Cent together, the consequence is more than simply rivalry, it's a societal upheaval. You need the whole image to comprehend why this Club Shay Shay event has caused such mayhem. Years of resentment, historical layers, and egos too large to remain silent. Jim Jones, Harlem Zone, has a reputation for being controversial in the game. Jim has established himself as a hustler and a hothead, from his early days of setting dips with Comwell's Santana to his more recent endeavors. He has spent decades balancing being mocked for his outbursts and being revered for his work ethic. Fans are aware that Jim is a rapper who speaks candidly, which is just what transpired on Club Shay, when he was seated across from Shannon Sharpe. Jim settled into a conversation that was lively but relaxed, too cozy. As soon as Nas' name was mentioned, Jim grinned, leaned back, and gave the now famous remark, "Nas, come on man. Half of the luminaries you all hold in high regard couldn't make it in the state of rap nowadays. You guys overestimated them." The words weren't the only thing, the tone was the problem. Sarcastic, dismissive, and brimming with disdain. Here's why that line ignited the internet. Why Nas matters. Nas isn't your typical rapper. He is a generational poet and hip-hop royalty whose debut album, Illmatic, is still regarded as the best rap album ever made. He stands for the authenticity, artistry, and history that hip-hop aficionados will stop at nothing to preserve. Jim Jones's challenge to the relevancy of Nas was therefore not only a jab, rather, it was an attack on the core of hip-hop culture. The terrible reaper of rap feuds, 50 Cent, enters. Let's now include 50 Cent in the discussion. This is the one thing you should know about 50. This is the kind of moment he lives for. His career has flourished due to public feuds as well as music. The Game, Rick Ross, Ja Rule, Fat Joe, and even Jay-Z were discovered using poisonous language from the 1950 South. 50 obliterates, not simply claps back. He unearths receipts. He makes theater out of beef. And contempt for the legends he admires is the one thing he hates the most. Insiders claim that 50 has always harbored affection for Nas. Jim Jones made fun of 54, openly recognizing Nas as one of the real rap gods. Despite their sporadic rivalry in the early 2000s, NAS wasn't merely idle slurs. It was intimate. The part Shannon Sharpe played in the chaos. Afterward, there's Shannon Sharpe, a legend unto himself. Club Shay has become one of the most popular venues for unvarnished, uncut interviews thanks to Shannon. His might, he lets his visitors speak. He doesn't often interrupt. He allows them to express their truths. However, that choice backfired on him in this instance. Shannon was swiftly criticized on the internet for allowing Jim to disparage Nas without retaliation. Shannon should have checked Jim right there. This isn't sports trash talk. This is hip-hop culture. One fan wrote on Twitter. Another stood up for him. Shannon isn't supposed to argue. He lets his visitors speak. We adore the show because of this. Whatever Shannon's motivation, his silence fueled the flames. And Club Shay became the scene of the most recent feud in hip-hop history. Why supporters claimed that this feud was unavoidable for years. Jim Jones and 50 Cent have been at odds for a while. Although they have never engaged in a direct conflict, there have been taunts, criticism, and friction, particularly in relation to Dipset's complex status in hip-hop history. Jim has always had a grudge, struggling for recognition while frequently feeling that other, more well-known people are taking precedence. And 50, he considers himself to be the guardian of authenticity. Rappers should never be frightened to be reminded of their place. Fans weren't shocked that 50 was the first to drag Jim after he attacked Nas. Many people actually think that 50 had been looking for a reason to pursue Jim, and this was the ideal one. The dots are connected by the internet. An even more intriguing narrative was swiftly cobbled together by social media detectives using prior interviews. Jim has called old head rap out of touch with the modern world. Jim was previously ridiculed by Scent for his antics on reality TV, claiming that he was more concerned about clout than bars. Though often above the turmoil, Nas previously made veiled jabs at rappers who choose fame over creativity. Fans feel that remarks were made inadvertently to individuals such as Jim, combined all of it. And Jim's club, Shay disc sparked more than one feud. 3 prominent names became tense in a triangle as a result. Right now, the stakes are higher than mere words. Credibility, heritage, and who gets to define what true hip-hop is in 2025 all at stake. Jim Jones is battling to demonstrate he's still relevant and not hesitant to criticize legends. By hauling Jim to remind him that there are boundaries you don't cross, 50 Cent is defending the culture. Fans are wondering if the king is about to enter the arena himself because of the deafening quiet. Even though Nas hasn't spoken yet, 50 Cent doesn't play small games. Despite the world's assumption that Jim Jones' casual jibe at Nas would just provoke a few irate tweets and possibly some defensive remarks from followers. The instant that Club Shaw video began going viral, 50 is locked in, and it's not about winning the argument when he drags someone. The goal is to completely destroy the opponent's credibility. Hours after Jim's remarks went viral, 50 Cent's first strike. 50 shared a post on Instagram that was equally surgical and vicious. He included an accompanying picture. Standing tall as hip-hop royalty, Nas is shown on the left, clutching a Grammy. Jim Jones is shown on the right, looking disheveled during one of his notorious reality TV outbursts. Mid-scene on Love and Hip Hop, the 50 informed the world of the difference in one post, with the title, Brutal. One built a culture, the other built storylines for VH1. Don't ever get it twisted. The internet lost its mind. Jim, the revered legend, versus Nes. The fans were enthralled with the cloud-chasing reality celebrity. However, another fan responded, he's right, though. Jim talking down on Nes is wild when he's never even been in the same conversation. 50 just buried him with a picture. That's worse than a diss track. The meme storm starts. 50 then unleashed memes, his favorite weapon. Old footage of Jim Jones' uncomfortable interviews, public altercations, and even viral bloopers from Dipset concerts were republished by him. They were all accompanied by captions that made fun of Jim's legitimacy. Nas is being judged by this man. Albums are less important than clothes. Memes proliferate like wildfire, using hashtags like hashtag Nas Defense Squad and hashtag number 50vs Jim, which are trending hourly. TikTok and Twitter transformed 50's posts into compilations. Fans dug up as if the 50's shadow wasn't enough. Jim's previous interviews, in which he stammered over responses about footage from hip-hop history, were much worse in light of his remarks about Nes. The center was occupied by Shannon Sharpe. The internet wasn't letting Shannon Sharpe off the hook. Despite his best efforts to remain impartial, supporters began bombarding Club Shaw's remarks. You allowed this to occur, Shannon. Why haven't you checked him? Next time, protect hip-hop. You must stand up for the legends. The pressure became so great that Shannon took a moment to respond on Twitter. I let my visitors talk. My platform is that, does not imply that I concur with all that has been said, but by then, the harm was done. He was pulled into the turmoil alongside Jim Dot, whose show had turned into a conflict. Jim answered with a fierce Instagram live. Never one to back down. You guys are behaving like Nas is untouchable. He is legendary. I did say what I said, though, on it, I stand. I did say what I said, though, on it, I stand. 50 as well. He had something to say all the time. Concern yourself with your shows. Be concerned about your electricity costs. Consider your TV ratings. The remarks stoked another fire. Despite the defensive tone, fans clipped 50 nonstop and clipped alive right away. Here's the first twist. Receipts from the 1950s. 50 Cent made his first significant turn at that point. Rather than simply making fun of Jim, he revealed something shocking that no one had anticipated. 50 people sent screenshots of what seemed like old text. Communications between Jim Jones and an unidentified business leader. The captions made the messages heartbreaking even though they weren't verified. When you're pleading with executives to send you on tours, how do you call Nas overrated? Jim was shown in the purported texts begging for opening spots, referring to the decreasing Dipset and even apparently obscuring Cameron's back. The fans went crazy. Was it authentic? Was it altered? No one was certain. But 50 had already dealt the final blow in the court of public opinion. This dude had Nas in his mouth, yet he couldn't even be the main attraction on his own tour. 50 is engaged in chess play. Playing checkers at the gym, the Nas quiet gets louder. Nas said nothing as all of this exploded. No tweets, no remarks, no interviews. And for some reason, the chaos was just made worse by that stillness. Supporters saw his silence as strength. When his warriors are already managing the conflict, the monarch doesn't have to react. Nas doesn't have to say a word, 50 is already doing the dirty work for him. One fan said. Some even conjectured that Nas had secretly approved 50 to deal with that whisper in his ear. Regardless of its veracity, the story merely fueled the flames. Catching in the crossfire was Dipset. The collateral damage followed. Fans questioned whether Dipset would intervene, and Cameron and Joel Santana were abruptly drawn into the feud. Support Jim or keep your distance. By sharing a picture of himself wearing a fur coat, Cameron attempted to dismiss it with a joke. "Y'all be safe out here," was the caption, but the internet didn't buy it. Cam is aware of Jim's error. He is quiet because of this. At the moment, Dipset appears amusing in the light. Jim vs. 50 was no longer the only drama. It threatened to sever long-standing ties and revealed Dipset's division. By this point, the audience turns against Jim. Jim's reputation was in ruins. Each and every attempting self-defense simply made him appear weaker. By equating his greatest singles with Nas masterpieces, fans began to drag his discography. Does Balin's coolness affect Give up playing. Jim had a summer. Nas had decades. When fans posted side-by-side comparisons of Jim's reality TV exploits and NAS awards, the memes became brutal. It was no longer merely a diss. It was international shame. Fans were completely mistaken if they believed that Jim Jones' credibility could be destroyed by the screenshots alone. Due to the fact that 50 Cent smells, he doesn't stop at bruising blood. He tries to knock someone out. He didn't just clown Jim this time, either. Even the top people in the industry were obliged to take sides because he turned the conflict into something so unpleasant and personal. Lately, 50 unleashes the video bomb. 50 posted a shaky backstage video one evening to his Instagram. After a Dipset show, Jim Jones was seen in the video getting into what appeared to be a heated argument with promoters. Most damagingly, he was pleading for a paycheck that hadn't cleared while yelling and pounding his fist against a table. Jim shouts, "Y'all can't do me like this. I need my money tonight." In the video, Nez wins Grammys, says the 50's caption. Savage as ever. Jim receives bouncing checks. Avoid contrasting the two. Instantly, the post went viral. It received over 2 million views in just 1 hour. The fans were taken aback. It made no difference if the clip was outdated or out of context. It was total humiliation. The internet is up. Twitter was overrun with nuclear meat. Jim, yelling at promoters, contrasted with Nez playing at the Grammys. A flyer reading that has been photoshopped live payment for Jim Jones is still pending. Fans weren't only giggling when they saw a phony GoFundMe screenshot with the caption, "Help Jim get his back-end check." They were referring to this as Jim's credibility ending. You cannot criticize Nas and then be exposed in this way. It's more than 50. He was retired with a single video. Shannon Sharpe responds. During a live filming, Shannon Sharpe, in the meantime, finally addressed the chaos with a mixture of disbelief and frustration. He said, "My show isn't scripted, but it was too late. I didn't realize that comment would turn into World War II. But hey, that's hip-hop. You guys need to stop blaming me for letting him talk." Fans made jokes that Shannon had unintentionally turned into the new Breakfast Club, where rap stars go to die, and Club Shaw Shaw was forever associated with the incident. Big stars were pushed to speak up as celebrities took sides in the revelation. On Instagram Live, Fat Joe stated that Nas is family. Man. Respect the legends. Jim paid cash. 50 Cent's power castmate Joseph Sakura said, "You guys can't front on Jimmy's hustle, but Nas is God level. Two different leagues." Tommy added, 50 don't miss. The most startling Cam single quotes, Ron Dot, the Dipset frontman, broke his quiet with a mysterious post that featured a single shrug emoji beneath a photo of Nas. Fans immediately surmised that this was Cam separating from Jim and refusing to sink with the sinking ship. But you all knew this was coming. I handled my business. Promoter is funny sometimes, but you guys act like Nas has never dealt with drama. Jim Jones went live again, looking visibly frustrated, and claimed that the video was old and out of context, and that it was part of 50's strange obsession with dragging people. That was years ago. Fans weren't buying it though, and screenshots of his live stream were shared on Twitter with clown emoji. The storyline was solidified, with Jim pleading as Nas was being built. The surprising revelation of an old Nas connection, and the unexpected twist. Fans erupted when a blog uncovered an old radio interview from years ago in which Jim Jones himself lauded NAS, calling him one of the greatest to have ever touched a microphone. The clip came back at the worst possible moment, revealing Jim raving about NAS influency, exact opposite of his contemptuous Club Shay disc. According to insiders, NAS himself had secretly chuckled at Jim's retraction, telling pals, "It's funny watching people contradict themselves when the spotlight hits." Jim further exposed himself, and 50 didn't even need this one. Severe criticism from the industry. Hip-hop podcasts and blogs started presenting the feud as a warning. Jim poked the wrong bear. 50 has been waiting for this moment. When you trash Nas, You disrespect everyone who laid the foundation. Jim's done. The Joe Bin podcast explained that disrespecting the legends and the culture will consume you. On The Breakfast Club, Charlemagne referred to it as Jim's worst career decision, stating, "You don't pick fights with Nit, and you definitely don't pick fights that give 50. Give me an excuse to drag you." The repercussions of the initial upheaval became apparent quickly. There were rumors that Jim had planned a brand agreement but had discreetly withdrawn following the controversy. He hinted a shoe collaboration on Instagram before becoming silent. And 50 Cent was stepping up, publishing more embarrassing memes every day. It was no longer simply a quarrel. It was a full-scale career assault. The second 50 Cent released the backstage video, the culture was no longer observing from the sidelines. Instead, it was taking sides, hurling punches, and calling for blood. The game changed, and it was no longer just a dispute but a spectacle. Twitter turned into a full-fledged battleground by dawn, with hashtags like number 50 versus Jim, hashtag NAS the GOAT, and hashtag Club Shay mess dominating globally. 50 just retired Jim Jones with memes alone. Don't even drop the diss tune. After playing around and insulting Nas, Jim discovered, "Yeah, you guys are hyping this." Jim remains a legend in Harlem. Quit pretending that he hasn't been hit. The gap was clear. Some believed Jim was a victim of his own words, while others attempted to justify him by claiming he was the result of persistent bullying methods in the 1950s. TikTok detectives at work on fans slowed down the backstage cash check video, scrutinizing every aspect like a crime scene. And creators wasted no time in creating entire compilations that compared Jim's issues with Nez's legacy. Illmatic clips were shown with the drama of the Dipset reality program. In less than a day, a video with the description, "This is what happens when you speak on the wrong legend," gathered 8 million views. It made fun of Jim's application to open for Nez concerts with 50 acting as HR. Instagram comment sections blow up when you talk about the incorrect legend. Jim's Instagram page was inundated with comments on every post. 50 made you the 2025 joke. Comments on every post. 50 made you the 2025 joke. Harlem still loves you, but stop toying with legends. 50's Instagram was booming, and his followers exploded every meme post, reaching millions of views and more. You're not even in the same bracket as Nas. Sit down. Generating a lot of laughing emojis from both fans and celebs. The industry couldn't keep quiet, and Fat Joe reiterated his prior remarks, stating, "Jim's my guy, but you can't ever play with Nas' name." For a period, fuel tweeting was introduced by Styles P. This is like to witnessing a real-time auto accident. It hurts, yet you can't turn your head away. Legends outside of the rap game also contributed, including Rick Ross, who slid in with shade at 50, writing and discrediting brothers. It was the same old Curtis. "Playing Nas all day," Shaquille O'Neal wrote as the caption for a meme he shared of himself, DJ. No inquiries for the gym, blogs, and podcasts. Podcasters at Feast had a great time discussing booze champions. When questioned about the beef, N laughed non-stop for several minutes. 50 lives for this. Jim should have known better. "Man, this will be delayed until summer." According to the Joe Boudin podcast, Jim walked right into the abattoir, which Boudin described as professional suicide. In 2025, you don't make fun of Nas, and you definitely don't invite 50 people to the barbecue. Titles such as 50 Cent turns Jim Jones into meme of the year were posted on blogs. Is Dipset coming to an end? Through it all, Nas quiet becomes famous. Nas remained silent. No mysterious posts, no interviews, no tweets. His power was simply increased by that quiet. It was seen by fans as the ultimate flex. You don't have to clap back when you're really amazing. Others conjectured that Nas was awaiting the ideal opportunity to drop a single, observing from his throne, the line of destruction that would bury Jim forever. The loudest answer is Nas's silence. Peasants and kings do not quarrel. It will be the final nail in the coffin when Nas finally speaks. The loudest discussion was no longer about Jim, but the diss track rumor takes over. It was roughly 50. Like wildfire, the rumor circulated that there was a diss tune in the vault. Leaks of fictitious track lists blew up Twitter. First track, Ballin' or Started. Second track, VH1 Bars. Dipset or Dip Out is the third track. Supporters pleaded with 50 to disclose it, saying it would be the final nail in Jim's coffin. Others cautioned that it might go too far and ruin Jim's chances of recovering. But there was no denying the hype. It wouldn't be another disc if 50 truly released new music directed towards Jim. It would be a happening. Fans of Dipset retaliate. Jim wasn't all by himself. Timelines defending him were filled by Dipset followers, particularly from Harlem. Sometimes, you guys forgot that Jim kept New York alive. Don't let one interview ruin his legacy. Harlem doesn't play, but 50 clowns are usually around. Jim receives soldiers as well, but the overwhelming wave of mockery and memes overpowered their voices. By this point, the court of public opinion had already determined that Jim was losing. From every side, Jim Jones' credibility was eroding. 50 Cent had humiliated him with receipts, buried him with that backstage footage, and burned him with memes. Fans pulled him, the industry made fun of him, and even Dipset's silence said more than words could. Volumes, however. The narrative took a turn that no one could have foreseen, with Nas at its core, just when the culture believed it had seen it all. For days is the murmured verse. There were rumors that Nas had taped a response in private. It sounded too crazy to be true at first. Nas doesn't move in that manner. He is beyond little matters, isn't he? However, a fragment started making the rounds. A 17-second muffled video snippet was leaked from a recording session. Nas's distinctive voice may be heard spitting in the hazy recording. "You guys are slaying on credit. I have been making money. Courtesy. Legends are unresponsive. However, this crown remains on my head." The collective intellect of the internet vanished. Was it authentic? No one could verify it, but if it was real, it meant that Nas had finally stepped down from his throne to give Jim Jones a warning shot. The excerpt was initially posted by 50 Cent supporters at feud, a 50 Cent fan page that only fueled the crazier speculations. Was 50 the one who leaked it? Was it sent in secret by Nas with the knowledge that 50 would use it as a weapon? Or was all of this a part of a larger scheme? A planned attack on Jim Jones's image? In any case, the story changed. All of a sudden, Jim had to deal with more than simply persistent trolling from the 1950s. One of the greatest MCs of all time might have been aiming a poetic bullet at him. Jim's quiet says more than words can. Jim didn't go live for the first time since the incident started. Memes weren't posted by him. He did not retaliate. There was silence on his Instagram. He left his Twitter on a dot. The fans smelt terror. Jim that he had pricked the incorrect giant. The sound of defeat is silence. Nas finished him after 50 dragged him. Jim, who was louder, said nothing. The culture concluded that he had already lost. Behind the scenes, the industry prepares for impact. Insiders whispered that Harlem was becoming more tense. Before Nas formally replied, Jim was allegedly publicly pushed to retract his actions by Dipet associates. However, pride weighs a lot, and never giving up had been the cornerstone of Jim's career. In the meantime, promoters, labels, and even brands, rumor had it that partners were putting a stop to their commercial dealings with Jim until the smoke cleared. He was radioactive in a field where perception is crucial. Then came the ultimate bombshell, the discovery that made this feud legendary instead of combustible. A knowledgeable insider claimed that Nas had not simply recorded a stanza by Shay. According to reports, he had discussed working together with 50 Cent rather than dissing him, but on a collaborative project honoring the enduring nature of hip-hop. Jim would be buried, not merely overshadowed, if that collaboration came to pass, because two legends banding together to demonstrate to the culture where the true power rests is louder than one legend standing up for himself. The gossip caught on like wildfire. Jim Jones serves as the catalyst for 50 and Nas to band together as they scheme in the shadows. Fans responded right away. Jim Jones may as well retire if he and 50 drop anything together. This turned from a beef to a potential historical event. We are seeing a live career funeral. And that's the current situation. Once self-assured enough to scoff at Nas on Club Shay, Jim Jones is now drowning in memes, embarrassment, and the specter of 50 Cent and Nas. Two of hip-hop's most destructive forces. A video of a backstage tantrum, maybe fake screenshots, and now rumors of Oopna's verse that are so scathing they could cut right through Jim's legend. The true question, though, is this. Is 50 Cent's persistent trolling machine targeting Jim Jones? Or did the instant he chose to utter Nas' name, he dig this tomb himself? Not to be overlooked is Shannon Sharpe. Did Club Shay just solidify its position as the most popular platform in the community? Or did Jim have enough rope to hang himself even if Shannon didn't say anything? More. The nuclear rumor, what about it? There is no denying the likelihood of a 50C and Nas alliance in the near future. Does Jim Jones have a mechanism to react if it does occur? Or does it formally remove him from the discussion forever? I'd like to talk to you. Leave your thoughts in the comments section. At this moment, is the King of Petty, the undeniable master of hip-hop warfare, your hashtag Team 50 ally? Are you reminding everyone why legends are deserving of enduring reverence? Hashtag Team Nas. Or do you still think Harlem's son can rise from the ashes and fight back because you're hashtag Team Jim? Overflow the comments. Don't stop there, either. If you think Nas is real, hit the like button. No diss tune has ever been able to outspeak silence. You can be sure that this channel will have the breakdown first if 50's diss track surfaces or if Nas truly drops that verse. So hit subscribe and enable notifications. The war has not ended. Memes were only the first step. The verse might be the conclusion, and it won't just be another headline when the next bomb goes off. It will go down in history. One more headline, bomb goes off. It will go down in history. One more headline.